both know that it will never get any better. Credit Andrew Crowley. The other day my wife, Stephanie, took me by the hand and gently explained that perhaps it was time to let go. You've been fighting bravely for so long now. We both know that it will never get any better. It's best to end it while you still have your dignity, she said tenderly. I knew she was right. Since my mid-30s I've been living in denial, trying to maintain the illusion of a full head of hair while male pattern baldness has stalked my scalp. Despite a range of different potions and gadgets, the problem has only worsened, and baldness has carved out a cruel shape on my bones. From the rear, I am a tonsured medieval monk with a comical dish-sized shiny bald pate. It is a look I have never been comfortable with. For too many years I've tried to maintain a mid-length modern style and cannot bring myself to engineer a comb-over or a complex Trumpian arrangement. But increasingly, the battle has been in vain. The temples are now receding to meet the barren central plane, and each time I catch a glimpse of my profile, I hear the buzz of the barber's clippers. I am not alone. The UK has the 5th highest count of balding men, with 39% of males going bareheaded. Our icons are those who managed to do bald well. Prince William, Bruce Willis, Jude Law, Jason Statham, and even David Beckham looks to undeniably be thinning. These standard-bearers have embraced hair loss with dignity, panache, and in some cases, a buzz kit. The Bald Untruth: 7 Common and Outrageous Myths About Hair Loss. A study last month revealed that a cure may be on the horizon, with researchers at Yonsei University in Seoul finding that when the CXXC5 protein bonded to another, called disheveled, hair loss was prevented and bald areas capable of regrowth in the mice tested. But in the meantime, I must accept my fate and finally get a haircut befitting of a balding 48-year-old. For advice on this most delicate of subjects, I approach the best in the business. Truefitt & Hill in St. James's, London, was established in 1805 and is the world's oldest barbershop. It is barber and royal warrant holder to the Duke of Edinburgh and pampers male celebrities, politicians and aristocrats alike. No other establishment knows better how a distinguished gentleman should adapt his remaining locks. I meet Truefitt & Hill master barber Michael Simeon for a consultation, fully expecting him to administer my hair the last rites and dispatch what remains with a razor. My heart soars when he offers hope. Firstly, we don't talk about baldness here, he explains. We talk about thinning. There are products that will claim they can regrow hair, but those claims are false. Once it is gone, it is gone. You cannot bring something back from the dead. However, there are tricks and methods a good barber can use to make the most of what is left. If it gets to the point where a customer would be better with a shaved head, I will always tell him, but you haven't reached that point yet. Michael explains that, like me, the mistake many thinning men make is to try and compensate for their loss by growing their remaining hair longer. As normal hair is thicker than receding hair, the thin patches are accentuated. In my case, the long hair creates a marked step around the bald patch. The best way to illustrate this effect is to visualize the difference between BBC Arts editor Will Gompertz and Location presenter Phil Spencer. Both have a similar pattern of hair loss, but approach styling in a very different way. Phil Spencer has mastered the art of balding gracefully. Credit Jeff Gilbert. Michael suggests that the most stylish and effective remedy for my specific type of male pattern baldness would be to clipper and thin out the sides and back, shorten the top and graduate the length from back to front, creating a more balanced, level look all over. At the front he also suggests shortening the hair in the middle of my widow's peak to develop an even hairline across my forehead. At its shortest, he suggests a grade 1. I've never gone below a 3 before. The hair loss journey which has led me to Michael's chair began in my mid-30s when I first started noticing a thin patch on my crown. Throughout adult life I've tried different solutions. In my late 30s I bought an expensive 3-stage hair loss kit which included a urea-based serum. I stuck to the regime religiously. I have used caffeine shampoos, volumizing shampoos, regenerative shampoos and vibrating brushes. In later years I've been mildly obsessed with finding the correct styling product for my remaining tresses. I've tried dusting powder, matte paste, pomade and putty, but the results always disappoint. I laugh it off. When my 11-year-old son jokes innocently about my lack of hair, I slap my pate and tell him to listen to the sound of his genetic destiny while inside I weep. Society can be cruel. Social convention dictates that decent people do not mock the afflicted, yet there is little consideration for the thin of hair, and terms like spamhead, baldy and slaphead are banned around much too flippantly. No man, after all, really wants to be bald. Dr. Sharon Wang is consultant dermatologist at the Homerton University Hospital where she runs a successful NHS hair clinic. She explains that male pattern baldness, or androgenic alopecia, is caused by an inherited sensitivity to dihydrotestosterone DHT, which is a naturally modified form of testosterone. Contrary to common belief, bald men do not have more of the male hormone, they are simply more sensitive to one of its byproducts. Michael Simeon, master barber at TrueFit Hill, gives the author a trim credit. Andrew Crowley: in men with male pattern baldness, the DHT shortens the growing phase of the hair, which determines length and coarseness. The more sensitive the follicle gets, the thinner the hair gets until the follicle is no longer viable and the hair she says. If you intervene early enough, you can slow it or halt regression with topical products or oral drugs, but if it goes past the critical stage, there is nothing you can do. More radical interventions include hair transplants and platelet injections, the latter of which involves harvesting growth-promoting plasma from a patient's blood and re-injecting it back into the scalp. It is a procedure Dr. Wong carries out for some patients. It is assumed that men can just shave off their hair when they start to thin, and it is laughed off, she says. But in my experience, men are anxious about hair loss. Deep down they do care, but to admit that is seen as vanity. Hair loss can be isolating. Back in the wood-paneled comfort of TrueFit and Hill, with photographs of Winston Churchill and HRH Prince Philip hung on the walls, Michael puts the finishing touches to my new look. As he brings the hand mirror around the back of my head for the dreaded rear view, I don't flinch like I normally do. He hasn't covered the offending area, he has skillfully made it look part of the hairstyle, rather than a hole within it, which somehow makes it easier to accept. It's important for men to be aware that there are things that a skilled barber can do, he concludes. Thinning hair does affect confidence, but the right cut can give you a good hair day every day. Ultimately, there is no point stressing about what in many cases is inevitable because stress leads to hair loss, so you are making matters worse by worrying about it.